Welcome to Job Tales, the show where we find out about different professions from people who know. Each week I speak to a new guest with a fascinating job. I talk to DJs, rally organizers, astronauts, mathematicians, you name it. You'll hear about their professional path to doing what they do, the skills required, and the tools they use for their job. I'm Laura Leoncini, and today my guest is my high school friend Valentina Donini, researcher, PhD in comparative law, and in charge of teaching culture of integrity at the Italian Anticorruption Authority. Valentina, I'm happy to have you as my guest, so happy because you and I go a long way back. But other than this, I'd like you to tell me, 30 years plus later, what do you do in life?
Oh, Laura, thank you very much for this invitation. I'm really glad to be here with you today. And I'm really happy to talk with you about my professional life,
That's
which
good.
is quite complicated, but I hope you may find it interesting, even if you know actually many of. Okay, what I'm doing now. Actually, now I am a researcher and lecturer, and I work at the National School of Administration in Rome, where I teach prevention of corruption. And I am also the spokesperson for the Multi Stakeholder Forum for Open Government in Italy. This is, I have been appointed with this task last year, and this is temporary, but still
Okay.
it's something that I'm really proud of this. So I will talk about this also today.
What did you study
Oh,
after high school? So you did
yes.
language school with me, and then
Yes,
afterwards?
yes, beautiful memories of the
Yeah,
time, great
great
memories.
memory. When we
And
had no worries and we were young,
very young.
very young,
Yes.
teenagers.
Yes, it was beautiful. But no, I am happy of what happened afterwards. Actually, I decided to study law. So I graduated in law in Rome University, Sapienza. And then I was not so certain about my future as everybody, but I knew I didn't want to become a lawyer, even
Mm,
if it could be interesting. But I preferred to study. I felt that I could be a good scholar, so I went on studying, and I had a PhD in comparative law. And I
mm,
was very happy of this because this comparative background is still very important to me and to what I'm doing now, because it opened my mind. You know, when you have to study other legal cultures, it means that you cannot just study law, but you have to widen your field of. You have to study history, geography, politics, social sciences, because actually law is the result of many non-legal factors, and you cannot ignore that. And I was really happy of studying a legal system as a whole. And actually, I also think that comparative law is not just an academic field, but it's a method, it's an instrument, a way of reasoning, because it makes you go beyond your conceptual boundaries, and it offers you a wider perspective, and we need it because we have to go actually beyond our limits, our prejudices, and so on.
mm.
And actually, as a PhD student and even later as a researcher, I was very lucky because I had the chance to travel a lot, to study abroad, to meet foreign scholars, visit foreign universities, to teach
Fantastic.
then in foreign universities. And that was very, very important because I had very important experiences abroad, and actually it made me the person I am now. And when you study law, you cannot just stop to law in the books, but you also
Yeah.
have to see law in action. You have to see what's happening in courts. You have to follow the public debates and so on.
Mm.
So
So when you did your law studies, the first few years were common to other branches, and then you did comparative law. Is that how it works?
Yes, actually, I made a normal program for law students, but in the end, you have to choose in which field you want to specialize. So I wrote my dissertation on comparative law, And afterwards, I thought that I wanted to go on with comparative law. That's why I applied for a PhD, and I was lucky enough to gain this position for a PhD in comparative law.
Ah,
So
okay.
I had 3 years more of studying, research, traveling, and so on. And I had to write another dissertation, a more important one. So it was my first step into an academic career, and I was very, very fond of it, and I liked it.
What was the title of
Of
the
my
dissertation?
dissertation,
Yeah.
of the PhD dissertation, very far from what I'm doing now, because it was contract law in Arab countries. Because actually, that's what comparative law. I was comparing Arab countries, and because I had studied Islamic law, and
Okay.
yes, that's why I also went to some countries there to study Arab for a while. But okay, that's another part of my life. It's in the past. But yes, for a long time I was specialized in that, but I also had a general background in comparative law. So when I started teaching, my teaching assignments were both on Islamic law and law of Arabic countries, and on comparative law in general, and also in international trade, in uniform law. That were my fields of activities at that
Mm,
time in the
yeah.
past.
Have you changed career over the
Uh,
course of your life?
Yes, actually, yes, because I started as a researcher in comparative law. I wrote a lot on comparative law, and I wrote books, essays, articles, chapters in books, research paper, and what on, and a lot of other things. But then I even gained a position as associate professor, but it was in a university, well, not in Rome, and for a number of reasons, which are very complicated to explain now, at a certain point, I understood that that was not my destiny, and that I needed to do something different. So I changed. And I was not really young when I changed, but of course I was a bit worried, because for a long time I had thought that my life would follow a certain path at
Hmm.
university. But then there was this change in my life, and I'm still a researcher, but not in a university, because the National School of Administration is something different from a university.
Yeah,
We
okay.
still make research, and we have teaching activities. But we don't have students, undergraduate students, but we teach to civil servants, so to the people who already have a degree, so it's higher education. And
Hmm.
we teach to the civil servants in Italy, and this is very interesting and also very challenging. And it's different from university teaching, because you have to be more focused also on the practical side, not just on the theory or on the academic part of. And it's very interesting, of course, because I'm doing something which has an impact on people, because I'm teaching prevention of corruption.
Right.
Still, I'm very grateful for my comparative law background, because I still use the method in my research on this subject, because corruption is a global phenomenon, is also a multidimensional phenomenon, and it is spread more or less all over the world.
Yeah.
So the response also must be global, the legal response must be global and international. There is a strong need for coordination and cooperation among states in order to face corruption altogether with an holistic approach. Moreover, we should also consider that the recent changes in the Italian approach in tackling corruption derive from international conventions, from international treaties. So
Hmm.
the international dimension is always very, very
Important.
important.
So it's coming in handy for you to know the comparative law.
Yes, of course, and also
Yeah.
to yes to see what other countries are doing, and especially the comparative methods is very important. A specific field of my research is something which is not very familiar to the Italian experience, and this is the protection of whistleblower.
Yeah, tell
This
me
is
more
something.
about this. Actually, can before you talk about whistleblowing, can you tell me exactly what is corruption? Like, how would you define corruption? So,
That's a great question. Okay, corruption is an illness. I would say that, because you cannot just say that corruption is a crime. Of course, it's
hmm,
a crime, Sometimes it's not even a crime, it can be just an attitude. What is very interesting now is that corruption is not just something limited to the criminal dimension, but also to an administrative dimension. So we can talk both of corruption and of maladministration, which is an administration, a public administration, which is not working in the best way because there are other interests
Mm.
preventing the administration to follow the public interest. So there is a conflict of interest. So I would say that corruption is an illness, a social and
Illness.
cultural illness, and
Okay.
many people are suffering from this illness. How do you treat an illness? You have to cure this. And being a cultural illness, you have to bring a cultural response, and teaching is part of the response. This is something that has changed in the last years. Corruption has always been a big problem here, but in the last 10 years, a new legislative framework made things change. First of all, the idea that you cannot fight corruption if you focus only on repression, because repression comes afterwards. Of course, it's important if you're responsible for corruption, you have to go to jail. But if you prevent corruption, is even better. That's why prevention is better than cure, and prevention is crucial. And you can prevent corruption only if you have an overall holistic approach, which does not focus only on laws, on rules, on measures, on technicalities, but also on culture, because
Hmm.
corruption is a social and cultural illness, so you need a
Yes.
cultural treatment. You have to teach people, you have to explain people what is a conflict of interest, because they don't have any awareness on this. People sometimes are responsible of maladministration. Well, if it's a crime, it's different because you must be aware of committing a crime. But maladministration, most of the time, depends on lack of awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
people do not even are not even aware of the social costs of corruption, not only of the economical cost, because of course corruption has a cost, an economic cost, and also a political cost. But it also has a social and moral cost, and that is even worse than the economic and political, because corruption steals the future of people, steals the hope of a better
Yeah.
future,
Yeah, for
especially for
sure.
young people, and that's
But it
very.
must be very difficult for to whistleblow. Like I remember
Eh,
there was a movie about it which really struck me. And I say, wow, it is really hard to come out because you're scared, of course, when
of
it gets
course.
more on the criminal side, I mean.
Yeah, but not just on the criminal side, also on the maladministration side. If you notice in your administration that something wrong is happening, it is normal that you want to report this, because you may notice that there are I don't know, wastes or frauds or abuse or corruption, or even danger to public health, to safety, or danger or
Mm.
threats to the integrity of the administration. So what should be normal? That you tell, that you speak up, and nothing bad should happen to you.
Mm.
But we know, and this is very sad, that after reporting, after whistleblowing, terrible consequences happen to the whistleblower. So
Yeah.
we need to protect whistleblowers. They deserve protection from retaliation and protection of their identity, of privacy,
Yeah.
because nobody should know
Yeah.
that who is the whistleblower. And this is very difficult. It's very difficult, even if time is changing, and awareness is growing all over the world, and also in Italy, where whistleblowing was unknown until a few years ago. Now we have legislation on this. But even if we have legislation, we don't have the word.
Yeah.
We go on using the English word whistleblowing, because we don't have in the Italian culture a word fully corresponding to the English term. So if there is not a word, it means that we don't have the concept, and
The
that's a
concept of
problem.
it. So is that your job to on an everyday
Yes,
basis? Is
I,
that
I
what you
have
do?
to raise awareness on this subject, because many people think that who reports is someone bad, someone
Mm.
who does this because he has personal interest or because he's a spy, someone who is not a good person. And you have to explain that is the contrary. A whistleblower is someone who cares for his administration, for cares for
Mm.
integrity, and is not afraid of suffering consequences because he knows that there will be consequences, and still he reports. So
Yeah.
actually, whistleblowers are heroes, and
I can tell from how you speak that you're very passionate about your job, which is great. And knowing you from the past, I know that integrity is definitely part of your life and your being. I know that back in the days when you started your career, you refused to work at a law firm because it was not representing your values and what you wanted to do with your life. And can you tell me, how have the values of your life and what you believe in and family have shaped your career?
yes, that's okay. That's difficult because it's not. I don't have a very brief answer. Okay, of course.
Try your best.
Yes, okay. Values are very important, and I couldn't have a career if I'm not believing what I'm doing. I need to strongly believe in what I'm doing in order to have the strength to do it. Also, the passion, the will of going on. Otherwise, it is very very difficult. If you love what you are doing, and I enjoy doing research, and I enjoy even more teaching and being a little part of the change I want to see in my country. This is very inspiring and gives me energy to work. I was not, in all my professional life and in the choices that I've made in the past, especially, I have never put the economic aspect at the first place.
Mm.
Otherwise, I wouldn't do what I'm doing now, actually, and probably I would be a lawyer, I mean, or I could be an associate professor because I gained a position, and I'm maybe the only person in Italy who said after gaining, I changed my mind. And this is okay. This is something very very strange, but and it's also a matter of time because we have just one life, and we cannot waste it in doing something that we don't really like. And
Mm.
it's a matter of balancing career with your personal life. I am a mother, or not just a scholar, and being a mother is for me something very, very important. And my children are the source of my inspiration, also
Yeah.
my professional inspiration. Because when I think at the future, at
Yeah.
the world we are leaving to young people, I'm very worried. So everything we can do
Mm.
to try to change the world and make it a better place, it's important. So
It's a good point.
I have to make a balance between what I want to do in my professional life and what I want to do in my personal life. And I don't want to be far from my children. They need me, and they need to have a mother and to have guidance in their life.
Mm.
So it's a matter of balance. And there is no money who can buy my time. That's what I
Yeah.
really think.
Thinking about the offspring, future generation. Now, what will be your advice to them? They're thinking about our listeners between 15 and 25 or 30-year-old.
Eh,
What? Yeah, what can they do to make the world a better place?
don't be afraid to try, because everybody should try. Maybe nobody will succeed because we are not succeeding actually, but if we stop trying, it's a problem. Someone told me once that young people dream of changing the world, but then are grown ups that are in charge of doing this. And that's true, because when you're young, actually you don't have the power to do what you really want to do, but you have the possibility of trying, dreaming, hoping, and experience something. You have to be in the right place to make this change happen. But everybody can do a small part, simply with choices, with behaviors, with small little steps. Uh,
Yeah.
you are not going to change the world. I make an example of the climate change. It's terrible what's happening. And I think that we are all responsible for it. So we are all engaged, we are committed to do something. But of course, what can a single person do? I'm not China, I'm not India. I know that if I turn off the light, I'm not saving the world. But if
Hmm.
everybody has responsible behavior in the use or abuse of electronic devices, or electricity or energy and so on, something can change. It's a matter of choices.
Yeah, it's very important what you say about to not be afraid of trying. And I also do agree with you that because when I was younger and I wanted to change the world, I wanted to, I was very environmentalist. I still am, but now I'm a realist environmentalist. So, and it's true, like you kind of become a realist, you become an adult. And so there must be a way for the future generation, the young ones of today, to keep a bit of their young mind throughout their life. Maybe we
Yeah.
can still do that. We can find again some source of inspiration. And I think that jobs that make you happy because you're passionate about it could be one source of inspiration. This is why I do job tales, because to show people, like you and me, we have now had over 20-25 years of work experience, and so we can in hindsight look back at our life and say, okay, we made our choices, we made our mistakes, we have tried our stuff, are we happy today, yes or no? So now this is my question to you: are you happy today with all the choices you've made?
Okay, yes. The short answer is yes, I'm very
Okay.
happy. And if I went back in time, I wouldn't change anything, because everything, even mistakes, because of course I made mistakes, but everything that happened in my professional life brought me exactly where I want to be. And I want to be here and now. This is what I'm doing, that I really enjoy what I'm doing. Of course, 20 years ago, if you ask me what do you want to do in your life, I would have answered something different, because I
Hmm.
didn't want that. I wanted to do what I'm doing now, that I wanted to teach prevention of corruption and to try to raise awareness and to spread this culture of integrity in the public administration and even outside public
Hmm.
administration, because there are many work in progress and works in progress, and I want to go on with these activities. So, of course, mistakes and regrets are part of the life, and
Yeah.
everybody makes mistakes, but they allow you to grow and to learn a lot of
Hmm.
things. And yes, of course, I changed my plans, but life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans.
Yeah.
And I'm still making other plans, which doesn't mean that I want to leave what I'm doing. But I still have plans, and I think that it's very important to have projects for the future. And I have plenty of projects, plenty of plans. I just need energy
More
and
lives.
time because I really have many ideas, and I want to go on. So this makes me happy, of course. I couldn't be happy doing a job that annoys me, or that is boring, or that has no real effects, no impact on real life. What
Yeah.
I really think, what I like of what I enjoy of my professional life today, is that I feel that I have an impact, because training has an impact on people's mind, on people's awareness, and I'm a little part of the change I want to see, and that makes me happy. But
That's
of course, I
great.
can improve. I can make things better, of course.
Yeah, Valentina, it was such a pleasure to talk to you and look back at our life. And great advice, great thoughts, and thank you so much for being part of my podcast.
Thank you, Laura. It was really a pleasure for me, and thank you, and good luck.
Wise words from Valentina. Among them, mistakes and regrets are part of life, but they allow you to grow. Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. And thirdly, young people dream of changing the world and then they become adults. Well, I hope that you who are listening today will be able to keep the dream of your young age throughout your life and help change your world.